Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza, and on this episode of the Rockstar Minutes, Nick and I sit down with the COO of Bitbuy.ca, Jordan Anderson, to talk about how to buy Bitcoin. And the reason that we are doing this is we are getting tons of questions about Bitcoin. So we thought we might as well sit down with someone very knowledgeable on the subject and get his interpretation of how we buy Bitcoin here in Canada as Canadians. So we go through the whole subject, and obviously for anyone out there who's very versed in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies already, you know this is a big world. So we don't get into all the nitty gritty and all the possible apps out there. We just talk about the basics of how you set up an account, what you do in the account, how you purchase it, some basics of hardware wallets, and so forth. So if you're versed in this subject already, there are probably more advanced videos out there. This is for someone who's really looking at the basics on how to get started with Bitcoin. That's it. Let's get on with the episode. Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza, and we're doing our Rockstar Minutes. We're on the road. Nick and I have never been, I don't know if we've done on the road before. But
we've done one of these in, not Rockstar Minutes, but we did one on the patio in San Diego drinking tequila shots.
Yeah, we have done one on the road before. We were drinking tequila in San Diego. Nick's absolutely right. But today we're happy to be, we're downtown Toronto, just off University, and we're here with the COO of Bitbuy. And the reason that we asked Jordan to do this is we're getting a lot of questions from different Rockstar Inner Circle members, different clients that we work with, and some of our friends and family members just about Bitcoin and crypto in general. So we wanted to ask you, and I think we'll just start at the beginning. The number one question we're getting right now is just, how do I even buy this stuff? Like, I've heard about Bitcoin, I've heard about crypto. How do I buy it? Like, what do I do? So can you just start right from the beginning of how does somebody buy this stuff?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for coming by. And secondly, to answer your question, so what you're going to have to do to get your first Bitcoin or part of a Bitcoin is sign up online on either an exchange like BitBuy or another app, create your account, enter in your email, verify your email. Then you're going to have to enter in your phone number after that and go through the steps of essentially verifying your identity. So one thing we do here at BitBuy as a regulated money service business is make sure that we know all of our clients. So the first step is to...
That's by government mandate, I
Yes.
guess? So a money service company, you have to ask these questions.
Yes.
Correct.
So when I get frustrated that I have to send in my driver's license information, all this information, you just have to do that.
Correct.
And regulated money service company is comparable to what? To any like investment advisors or something? Like what is that?
Any type of bank, wealth management company, brokerage, online brokerage, Forex company. These are all different examples of money service businesses.
So because there's money flowing through, because of money laundering laws, then people need to kind of ID themselves because of, I guess, all the FinTrac laws in Canada.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So all the FinTrac laws were mandated to make sure to collect all that information from individuals signing up and creating accounts with us. So we have a way to automatically verify users based off of their personal information when they come to the website. But if that auto verification doesn't match up based off of our requirements, then clients then have to upload an ID, a selfie with that ID, and two bills, one from a financial institution and one, for example, utility bill or cell phone bill with the address matching the address on their profile so that we can verify their identity.
So you actually take so you hold up your ID and take a selfie of yourself while you're holding up the ID?
Exactly.
Really? I guess because we did ours through corporation. So that's for the personal side. And if the people that want to do it through a company, then there's, I guess, additional requirements because they're doing it from a corporate level.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So either way, you'll have to do that, get auto-verified as an individual, and then afterwards, if you want to send funds from a corporation, you can upgrade your account and provide additional information on that corporation.
Yeah, it's funny because I know some people who've made BitBuy accounts, so on an exchange like bitbuy.ca, and they've been auto-verified. So there's some database somewhere, I guess, that you've somehow given information that you guys are connected to in a third party. You don't have to give me all your secrets here, but I'm assuming there's a third party that has some information on
we
us.
Look at a couple things. We integrate with different data partners, TransUnion, mobile cell phone data providers, and they're able to then verify you are who you say you are.
Got it. Okay.
Cell phone provider? Oh, because how does the cell phone provider come into the picture?
So basically that's one of the identifiers
Yeah.
when you put your mobile cell phone number in, that
Oh,
we can
then you
identify who
confirm
you're.
with them that it's the actual. I got you.
That's correct.
Interesting.
So then once someone's verified, then what's the step to get some cash over into an exchange?
Yeah, so you have a couple options to fund the account, and it depends on the amount of cash or the amount of Bitcoin you're looking to buy. So if you're looking to fund your account with smaller amounts, we recommend Interac eTransfer.
Smaller amount, under $100, under $1,000?
$100 to, let's say, $20,000.
Okay. I like it. He's thinking smaller amounts, $20,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so $20,000 or less, smaller amount. I'm joking. I'm giving you a hard time. You can use Interac.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
And just on that note, because I was doing a little bit of that with you guys, I actually had to call the Canadian bank that I was dealing with. In my case, it was TD, and get them to release the Interac because I was sending over the money and they were just putting it into a pending state. And I guess they thought, they weren't sure if I really wanted to do what I want.
Yes. Sometimes you'll run into a little bit of issues sending funds from your bank with Interac eTransfer. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, if the banks wanted you buying crypto, they'd probably figure out a way to have sell it to themselves at this point. So what they're doing is they're blocking these transfers from time to time and making sure that, this is a legitimate transfer and this isn't a fraudulent transfer, and you have to call and get it released.
Yeah, got it. And the way they're communicating it is just that, like, they're not sure if it's, a fraudulent transaction.
Your
or
protection.
Doing it for your protection. I just get frustrated because I want to send my money over and it's delaying it, right? But okay, so you can send it over Interac or you can do wire transfer.
Yeah, so if you want to fund your account with a wire transfer, you can activate that request in the account, and then what will happen is, in some cases, you'll just be able to download that wire transfer document that has all the relevant information to be able to fund your account. Or in the case of what we do here is we actually have one of our account reps reach out to you personally. They'll give you a call. They'll simultaneously send you the email with those wire details, and they'll walk you through that whole process because not a lot of Canadians are used to sending wire transfers, but they want to buy Bitcoin.
It's a pretty antiquated process. Like the few times that I've had to go into the bank, sit there, wait for them to go through the whole thing to send a wire transfer, it makes me realize, while sitting there, the first few times I did things were Interac transfers, and then when I was doing the wire transfer, it made me realize, like, this is a really antiquated system. Like the ability to send things, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, but some sort of cryptocurrency is in much easier fashion without this intermediary controlling everything, man. It's just, you see the value in that alone. That's a whole other conversation for another day, but
Just the process of lining up the bank, and then you're asking kind of how long is it going to take, which actually doesn't take too long, but we're so used to everything being instant. But it was, but
and they quiz you too. What's this for?
Yeah,
I never want to. I don't know why. Even though it's a completely legitimate thing, I never want to answer that for anything. I feel like telling them something outrageous, like it was going down to Mexican cartel because of importing, and I just want to see what their reaction was.
That's one way to get your account
right?
immediately locked. But I think they're just filling out a field that they have to fill out.
They have to.
But I always feel frustrated too because I'm like, it's my money. Why are you asking me what I'm doing with my money? But
yeah, totally. And that comes up a lot, and maybe about 5% of the cases, the banks actually don't allow the wires to get pushed through.
Oh, so you
for
do
clients.
get that a little bit?
So that does happen. So when we talk to the clients and they say, look, if the teller asks you the reason of why you're sending the bank wire transfer to this company, maybe it's not the best approach to mention Bitcoin. Maybe you can just let them know that it's a private investment. And so that's what we're telling people.
Yeah,
private
investment. Sure.
Because ultimately it is a private investment, and this isn't necessarily something that they need to know about.
Yeah, you have to speak to them in their language. Private
got
investment, they understand. If they don't understand the other terms you're using, it might raise some flags if they don't understand.
And to the bank, to kind of throw a bone back to the banking system here, I think ultimately their concern is that their clients aren't getting scammed or ripped off. And so, as long as the client has done the requisite research on the business that they're sending it to, and it's a legitimate business like BitBuy, that is a money service business that is regulated by FinTrack, and which is a government body, then you're good to go. But ultimately, they're just concerned that their clients aren't getting scammed.
Yeah, got it. That brings up another question, because do you get some clients asking you, hey, are you a legitimate money service business? Do you have to
totally.
How do you answer that?
And they can actually go to the FinTrack website and look up BitBuy Technologies Inc. and
got
we're
it.
listed
Okay.
there. So they can actually do the research there and look us up. There's other things that we've also done to, give extra assurances to our clients. So we've done now back-to-back 2 years in a row proof of solvency audits from 2 separate firms. Essentially they came in, they're third parties. They look at all of our balances that we're holding on behalf of clients, and then ensuring that those balances are actually what they say they are, third parties.
Got it. Okay.
Things like that.
Okay, so now I've set up my account. I've gone through the identification process. I've either sent money in through Interac via an Interac transfer or wired money over. Then
Can I show up at your office with a wad of cash and give it to you guys?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So I've interacted it over. I've wired it over. It's in your account. At that point, then how do I buy some? I guess we can start with Bitcoin or any of the other cryptos. I guess it doesn't really matter. But how do I buy it? So I log into my account. I see that it's now funded, and then what?
Yeah, great question. So there's a few different options that you have. We've tried to curate the process to each individual's needs of the amounts and what's easiest for them. So some guys, they like to trade everything themselves, and then other people, they want some help with that. So for the larger amounts and the people that are less hands-on, we set up the OTC desk. And really the idea there is that if you're trading $25,000 or more, you can call your BitBuy account manager and say, look, I want to speak to an OTC trader and I want to execute a trade. I want to get a quote on a trade. And then we can quote that price and say, look, this is the live market price. We're going to go source those coins from global liquidity providers, give you that quote. And if you like that quote, you can execute that quote. And basically how that's working is we're using institutional providers that only service other businesses as opposed to individual retailers to be able to get the best price and access these markets which exist, like I said, on a global level.
Got it. So for the larger purchases, you are able to get liquidity by kind of connecting to other exchanges or other markets to pull in the Bitcoin that you need and to give get the best price that way. And that's the OTC desk. That stands for over the counter. Correct. So over the counter, and that's for $25,000 or more.
Correct.
And if it's less than $25,000, let's say it's like $100,
Yeah.
you can use your express trade interface, which is literally just pressing a button and saying how much you want to buy.
Yep.
Correct. And then you have is it called the Pro Trade? I forget.
Pro Trade.
Pro
Yeah.
Trade interface, which gives you a bit more functionality. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically how Bitcoin exchanges and out there work is that there is going to be orders that are in essentially an order book, and there's going to be bids and there's going to be asks. And the bids are all the orders of what people are willing to pay for Bitcoin. The ask is all the orders of what people are asking to sell those Bitcoin. So whatever's in that book, you can buy that and you can see what people are putting out there, these limit orders, essentially these price orders, and you can actually see that and you can trade that through that book. So it's a more advanced functionality that offers users limit orders or market orders. So limit orders are being able to just put in an order into that book. Market orders are just buying up the orders that are in that book. And what happens is you have a mid-market price, which is the mid price between the bids and the asks.
Got it. Okay, so someone like Nick, who's going to be a bit more serious about the price he's buying, because someone like me usually goes into your express trade and just says, buy.
And
I
was like,
just
Tom,
want
what are you
this stuff.
doing?
I just get me this stuff. I'm just buying it. But he will go in and put in his bid, and then it'll sit there to see if that gets hit. And sometimes it sits there for a few hours and it gets fulfilled. So if you want to kind of play with your purchases a little bit more, you can use the Pro Trade interface to do that kind of stuff.
Exactly. You can set your own price. It won't necessarily get filled, but if the price moves or into that price, like let's say you set it below the mid-market price, then that can get filled at a later time.
Okay.
Double-edged sword, right? Because I've done it before where I've set it before bed, and sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh, nice, it hit, because it came down a little bit, and then it went back up, so I was happy. And then other times it didn't hit,
And it
you know,
moves
I'm
on
like,
you.
and I'm like, damn, it moved.
You get
I should've-
frustrated.
I
It
should have
moves away
just
from
bought
you.
it, right? So there's
Right.
definitely double-edged sword with when you play that game, right? And that's more for the traders, I think. That are, I mean, my personal thing is I'm kind of holding a lot of this stuff, but for people that are trading it on an ongoing basis, then those little increments can really matter for them, I guess, right?
Totally. And the way that a lot of Bitcoin exchange and crypto exchanges work globally is that there's what's called an API, and people can connect to different marketplaces, or traders can connect to different Bitcoin marketplaces and trade via algorithms. And so, for example, maybe you had a Bitcoin business that just needs to sell Bitcoin on an ongoing basis because you're collecting those Bitcoins in exchange for goods or services. So you can basically set up a program that just sells those Bitcoins automatically into a exchange. So that's like another use case of why you need that sort of live marketplace
Got it.
to be able to trade these assets.
Okay, and before I ask the next question, I just want to ask Keith. Keith, are you okay with that camera angle on Jordan here? You're good? It's getting him good? Yeah, okay, cool. So I guess, so now the next question I have for you is, we've created the account, we've funded the account, either Interac or Wire. We've used, let's just say, the express trade, nice and simple. I'm going to buy and hold some of this stuff. I can purchase Bitcoin, or on an exchange like you guys, I can buy some of the other cryptos that are out there. And then now I guess I want to ask you, once I've purchased some and I have it in the exchange, is it safe on the exchange?
Yeah. So one thing that we did at BitBuy was we were getting that question all the time from clients, and
yeah, because in the news you always hear about different hacks and different things going on. So I guess that's a question that we're getting a lot too. Like, is it safe once I buy it?
Yeah, definitely. And so that comes up a lot. And basically, one thing we did is we partnered with a company out of Montreal that focuses 100% on Bitcoin custody, so holding Bitcoins, keeping Bitcoin safe, and so forth. So we partnered with this company to offer one-to-one insurance on all the Bitcoin holdings that are left on BitBuy. And a lot of the largest Bitcoin exchanges and crypto exchanges have some portion of these Bitcoins and these crypto assets insured when left on their platform. So rest assured, when you work with BitBuy, the Bitcoin is insured. That is left on the platform.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then now, I guess the next question I have for you is, I want to ask you some questions about ownership. But before I do, what's the difference when someone asks me, "Hey, should I use an exchange, or I just want to buy some Bitcoin and somebody gave me some app that I'm going to download?" And it's not quite an exchange from what I understand. It looks like you download an app, and I guess it's an exchange because you're buying it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
What's the
so there's
difference between
different-
an exchange and like buying it in a different way? Like if you just put some app on your phone.
So there's different ways that you can buy and hold Bitcoin and get exposure to Bitcoin. One way is spot Bitcoin. So spot Bitcoin is what we offer here at BitBuy. It's actually buying Bitcoin and having the ability to custody or hold that Bitcoin yourself, meaning you can withdraw that Bitcoin to either another wallet that's in your name, another account that's in your name, or you can leave it in BitBuy. Now, other platforms offer what's called a closed loop system, which means that when you buy the Bitcoin, it can only sit within that app, and they're the ones who are securing it.
Okay,
for
so
you.
this is like kind of what like PayPal's announced in the US, where through PayPal you can get access to some Bitcoin or some cryptos, but you're kind of getting the price exposure of the Bitcoin, but you can't take possession of that Bitcoin yourself because it's in their closed system.
Correct, and this kind of comes down to private keys and how you're actually able to move that Bitcoin. So that's completely correct.
Okay, and I guess why that's an important question for us is we've always believed that, we're gold guys that have come into this Bitcoin kind of world. We're real estate guys.
We believe in own. That's why we like real estate, is because we own the asset.
We own the asset.
Title
We can
transfer.
control the asset. We're all about the controlling of the property.
It's no different
right?
than a REIT. Like, you can get real estate exposure
Right.
with the REIT, but you can never take ownership of that, no matter what you own of the REIT. You
Right.
can never transfer that into actual
can't touch
ownership.
it.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
difference. Or with gold.
And then with gold,
trading
we thought
GLD
have
or-
some of your extra savings in gold, but you don't want to get access to just the price of gold, like trading GLD or something like you're saying. You want to take the bullion and kind of own it. So in kind of Bitcoin world and in crypto world, there's the opportunity when you buy it through an exchange like yours for me to go out and then get a wallet independent of the exchange, and I can take the keys off the exchange,
Exactly.
and I can hold direct possession of the Bitcoin.
Correct.
And I know I'm getting a little, for anyone who's super technical out there, I know the Bitcoin's living out there on the network, but I'm going to get access to
Well, what
the
we can do
keys.
is we can actually post a link to a blog post that we created
Oh,
that
awesome.
discuss how to take your Bitcoin and withdraw it to a private key so that you are in possession of those keys. Exactly what you're
Do it
referring
yourself.
to.
Okay, so we'll link out to that.
Is it mandatory that the first time you do that, you're nervous as hell?
Yeah.
Thinking that you're like, is
Yeah, the
this thing
first
gonna
time we
work?
did it and the transfer is happening, and then on BitBuy, it was like, okay, like it shows your balance.
Pending.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and at one point, went down to zero. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no more Bitcoin on the exchange, but my wallet isn't updated yet. And you're just walking around for like 20 minutes wondering
lost
what's
inside.
happening, just crossing your fingers.
So let me walk you through that whole process for a second. So what you do is you buy a device. We recommend Ledger. Other brands are Trezor and so forth. And these are cold wallets, meaning that there's an air gap between the private keys and any type of live internet connection. So what you do is that's a software interface that connects with the device, and the USB device is what unlocks the ability to withdraw those Bitcoins from that software interface. So the way you do it is once you've bought the Bitcoin on the platform like BitBuy, you set up the software, the Ledger software, you take the wallet address from there, you copy and paste it, and you put that wallet address into the withdrawal section on BitBuy, and you're able to then transfer the Bitcoins from BitBuy onto that device. And when you set up that device, there's a whole process that you have to go through. There's a backup phrase, and then there's a password that you set on the device, and so forth. So there's a whole process that you're going to go through to make sure that you can keep those coins safe and secure when using that device.
And then
I
they're
can
in
walk
your
you through that as well.
Okay, and that blog post describes some of this stuff.
Yeah,
so
totally.
We'll link out to that. But then you're in possession of it, which is amazing and scary at the same time. Like for us, I think it has been. But okay.
Along these same lines about exposure to Bitcoin, because we were talking about the two different systems. This is a little bit different, and I'm just curious about this, and maybe even some of you don't. But on the way down here, in a convenience store, we saw lights above the door, and it said "Buy Bitcoin here."
It actually said buy Ethereum too,
Buy
right? It said
Ethereum
buy
as well.
Bitcoin, buy Ethereum.
And I know in the mall close to our office, the shopping mall, there's a Bitcoin machine, like a little like ATM, looks like an ATM. You can buy Bitcoin. So, and I've never used one of those things, and I'm just curious. Since we're here, have those things? Are you able to actually take it in your own? I guess
Oh
you
yeah,
are. You
that's
just,
the only option.
so you put your own. You put your own wallet
it
ID,
goes
and you can do
right
it.
to that wallet.
And it's just buying through some exchange somewhere.
Right.
It's linked to some exchange, and they're doing it that way.
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Got it. Okay, so now we've got, just to recap, I set up my account, I go through on exchange, and we're using BitBuy obviously as the example here. I give my identification, I can then fund it with Interac transfers or wire transfers. I can then use the express trade to simply buy it, just put in, I want to, take 500 Canadian dollars and buy that much worth of Bitcoin, and it's going to be fulfilled. Or I can go to Pro Trade interface, or you have an over-the-counter service where if you're doing $25,000 or more at a time, someone can get on the phone with you and deal with that.
Correct.
And then if I choose to, I can leave it on the exchange because at BitBuy it's insured. The Bitcoin's insured, correct? Bitcoin's insured, or I can
1-to-1.
1-to-1. So everything I purchase, it's 1-to-1 secured, or I can choose to take it off the exchange into a wallet, like you're saying, like a Ledger wallet, like a Nano or something like that, and then I can put it back on the exchange if I choose.
Correct.
Because if I want to transfer it back, I can then transfer it back onto the exchange. Okay, so then now that I know that, I just want to talk about.
Or for if people don't understand, you can put it back on the exchange, or you can also
send it to somebody else.
To other people.
You could send it to me.
So
you send it to me.
Yeah,
If you want to send anything, Jordan, you can send us stuff too.
Yeah,
if you just want to get
if
rid of
there's
some of your
any leftover.
Bitcoin, send it to us. He's not having anything.
One
over that.
one
He's
thing
not even
one thing that
reacting
I
to
think we
that.
should highlight right now, really quickly, is that be very careful when sending and receiving Bitcoin and who you're sending to. Know exactly, like for example, if you're sending it to your friend, know why you're sending it. Don't ever send your Bitcoin to anybody you don't know or you don't trust. Or essentially, we have a phrase in the Bitcoin community: not your keys, not your coin. So if you're going to keep your Bitcoin on one of those wallets, make sure you're in 100% possession of it, because there's no way to reverse these Bitcoin transactions. Once it's sent, it's done. It's a done deal. And that's why when you were asking me earlier about getting nervous about sending it the first time, we recommend what's called a Satoshi test. So send a tiny amount first, maybe like $5 or $10 worth. Test that process went smoothly, that wallet address was inputted correctly, $5 or $10 showed up on the other end, and then go and proceed to do the rest of your balance.
Yeah. The reason I'm smiling when you say that is because we did that, but then someone in our office on our team who bought some Bitcoin, he literally on his first transfer, I'm not going to say the dollar amount, but it was fairly substantial. And I went and spoke to him. I'm like, did you do the transfer? He's like, yeah, I did it. And I said, you did it all? And he goes, yeah, I just did it all. I'm like, as your first transfer, I almost had a heart attack for him.
Right.
So because
it took a while.
It took a while. And then he started, I think he was fine with it until he saw me freak out. So then he started freaking out. So in our office, we were both doing circles for like 20, 30 minutes until I did it, walking around.
Yeah, and the more you send it, the more comfortable you get with it. And I think this is kind of this technology, this blockchain technology, and being able to transfer money using these techniques is going to become more and more ingrained in our way of life, especially with the advent of potential central bank digital currencies coming out and so forth. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve here when we're doing these types of transactions, and we're also learning, the power of the blockchain and being able to transfer wealth super easily.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
But what you said is a very valid point. Like they're not reversible. And there's been multiple things like on the internet. There's always different stories and scams and stuff going on where it's like, hey, send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2 back, and all these things. Like those things don't work.
Be careful.
Remember, wasn't it Elon
ever
Musk's Twitter account hacked? I remember a bunch of pretty prominent Twitter accounts were hacked and said, if for every $100 you send me in Bitcoin or 1,000 or whatever, I will double it back to you or something.
Some like teenager in his basement in like
Idaho. They ended up finding the guy.
Like
That's
that.
right.
Like,
Yeah. So you always be careful.
In a lot of
and
trouble.
there's just like phishing emails with any online banking. Yeah. You have to be careful of any emails that come into you saying click here and send me your Bitcoin. So obviously be very careful. I just want to circle back on one last point. There's also some people listening that have money in registered funds. So they are going to buy Bitcoin through some of the funds that are out there. And I think that's fine because you are getting the price exposure. The important thing to know if you're doing that, in my opinion, is that you're never going to be able to custody or take direct ownership of the Bitcoin from those things. So that would be so far like something like a PayPal or some of the funds here in Canada. And they are serving a purpose. If somebody has some registered funds, they want to do something, you can buy it that way. Just understand the difference in using an exchange and buying at the spot price versus using something like that. You're likely paying a premium, I'd imagine.
Right, a premium and annual fees.
Premium and annual fees. And I just want to repeat, like if you have money in a registered account and that's the only way you're going to get exposure to Bitcoin, I'm not going to deny that. Go for it. Just understand when you're using exchange, you're likely getting the better direct spot price.
Correct.
And you're not paying a premium for it. Am I summarizing that fairly well?
Yeah, you're buying spot Bitcoin versus a fund.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
I had money in a TFSA. I'm like, I got this money. I should try to use it because of the tax-free side of it. So I called the bank. I'm like, look, I want to actually transfer this. And I didn't say, which exchange or anything. I'm like, I just want to transfer it to another exchange to buy an investment out of here. Like, but it's all like, there's a paper trail to it. You can track the money. We can see it. It's not, I'm not taking out personally, for all those tax purposes. And they're just like, well, no, you have to buy whatever products the bank's offering, and you can only buy those things. And I'm like, man, it's too bad, But so anyways, it was just that's one of the limitations of those products right now. That might change. Maybe the banks, if they kind of get more into the space or whatever, that might change. But right now, there's only a few options. But it does serve a purpose. Yeah.
So Jordan, we want to thank you. A whole bunch of our clients use BitBuy. We bring you guys up all the time. You guys have been great to us, great to some of the clients. Some of our own team members have reached out to you guys. So we're big fans. Thank you for sitting down and doing this. Anything else on your mind that you want to share about BitBuy specifically? You're the Chief Operating Officer here. You guys, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to BitBuy over the next 3, 5, and 10 years as this kind of growth continues. Anything else on your mind that you'd like to communicate out?
No. I mean, if you're interested in learning more, we have a full guide at support.bitbuy.ca. Goes over all of these different questions that may come up. So if you want to get involved and you want to try it out, you can definitely learn more there, or you can learn more on our resources section about a bunch of these different topics. So, I appreciate you guys coming down and speaking with us. And yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, thanks, guys.